Welcome, connoisseurs of fine common cardboard, to today's live stream. We've got a special one today. My name is Papa Popper, also call me Ryan, and today we are doing a bit of a live coaching session. We're going to start out with a bit of a presentation talking about Killian, Ink Duelist for cpedh competitive Popper Commander, this great format that we've all been diving into on this channel today. So if everybody wants to just give me a quick heads up in the chat that the audio is going great. We're going to start out with a presentation. We're going to talk a little bit about Orzhov, a little bit about Killian. Going to make that all super brief because we like to talk about Orzhov here. And then we're going to bring on basically the coaching client we've got today. We've got Brenin, who's going to be talking with us today a little bit about their experience playing Killian Ink Duelist in the Sanctuary Open 4 tournament. And then we're going to go through all the nitty gritty, and we're going to take their deck and we're going to basically spice it up, bring it up to pace, and show you a little bit about how you can do something really unique in Orzhov, because Killian is really quite different from the other Orzhov commanders we have. So let's kick things off here. First of all, Orzhov is a fabulous color. There's a lot to do with it. However, what we're doing, and there's a lot of reasons to want to be playing it, and it's why I've made a lot of videos on it. We've talked about Denethor, Vizkopa Guildmage, Indulging Patrician, Cliffhaven Vampire, Ariel. We're actually going to have another one next week is going to be Orzhov as well. We're going to be talking about the newly printed Baron, Bertrand, which is going to be super epic. So be there for that. That's going to be amazing. But we're playing all of these decks here with one thing in mind, and that is that in Orzhov, Extort is just exceptionally good. Extort is a significant life point differential for a little bit of mana. It can be hasty. It's on creatures that you can get back over and over again. It's basically like a pinger that counters other pingers, and all that's really great. But today we aren't building around that, and that's what's unique, because if you looked at all of these here, these are all base Orzhov decks that are all ultimately Extort decks. They're drain decks that are nickel and diming our opponents over time, gaining us lots of life, and keeping us topped off against other pinger decks while pressuring all the decks at the same time. And that's not what we're doing today. We're not going to be working with Basilica Screecher or the other ones, despite the quality of them. They're very good, but Killian asks us to do something very different. Killian here has two things that are really exciting. One is this right here. Spells that you cast that target a creature cost 2 less to cast. So let's talk about a little bit about what that means. Any spell that says it can target a creature that is in play is going to be discounted by 2 colorless. This is a pretty significant discount. It's going to turn spells that otherwise don't see a lot of play because they're too expensive into 1 mana spells. This can be protection, it can be kill spells, it can be a lot of different things. It could be auras that may be like an impetus card, for example. Do note, in fact, that the FAQ on this unfortunately does specify that this does not work with reanimation. You can't basically get the discount from Killian by targeting a creature in your graveyard, which is unfortunate because that means we would have been able to play like Dread Return. We could have had like a Killian reanimator deck where you like cycle creatures into the graveyard and then bring them back with like Dread Return and Resurrection and Breath of Life, False Defeat, all that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, we can't do that. And so this is just for things that are in play. It only needs to say that it can target a creature, and you're going to get that discount. The other thing is that the 2 mana is really important. It's a very cheap commander that comes out right away and immediately starts discounting our spells. The important thing about that is we don't want to be sitting around waiting for our commander to get into play to cast our spells. A good example, 2 good examples of this are the new Crom, which is 4 mana and asks you to cast 2 spells every turn to draw a card and get a counter. And essentially that reads like, I don't really want to cast my spells unless Crom is in play, and my commander is 4 mana. Wisp Drinker Vampire, which is one of the videos we did, was also a 4 mana commander where we like wanted to ramp into it really hard. We needed to ramp into it on turn 3. Otherwise we were like, turn 5 was when we were getting our first triggers. Turn 4 at the fastest. And that's just not really fast enough. We don't want our deck to be gated behind our commander super hard. Killian comes out on turn 2. He's coming out super, super early, and he's going to be coming out about the same time as other commanders like Malcolm or Gretchen that are doing much faster things. So it's quite unlikely that Killian is going to get tagged on turn 2. Maybe a turn 3 player, goes ahead and edicts the board and catches our commander. But in that case, then there's nothing to kill, and it's quite fine as well. So 2 mana discounts. The other thing is that we get lifelink and menace, and this means that suddenly we have a very real avenue for pushing commander damage on people, because we're going to be gaining life when we hit people, keeping ourselves topped off. This is our mechanic for staying alive instead of extort. And the menace means that we actually have a very effective way of killing people, which is just hitting them with an evasive big creature that we can pump over time. We're going to focus on this part first, so let's talk about that. This effect is the goal of this effect is to maximize that discount and get our spells to be 1 mana. We want to be casting 1 mana everything. We want to keep our action economy super, super high so we can tag creatures, we can protect our own, and not be too fussed about it. So cards like Go for the Throat are already amazing, but imagine that they're just 1 mana, right? This becomes like a better Vendetta, a lot better Vendetta. And there are a lot of examples of cards like this in black. We have cards like Eyeblight's Ending. It just has to be a non-elf, right? This is going to kill most creatures. Ob-Nixilis' Cruelty, -5/-5, and exile a creature for 1 mana instant speed. Rendflesh, non-spirit. This basically, non-spirit means it hits everything but like Ghost of Ramirez, right? And these are all just 1 mana instants, so we really want to maximize those kinds of cards. In white, increasingly, we have gotten a lot of new cards that are very flexible with interacting with a wide range, a diverse array of different permanents. Generous Gift can target a creature. It targets permanents. Creatures are permanents. This is a 1 mana destroy a permanent, make a 3/3 elephant token. Make your move here. It doesn't need to target the creature for it to be discounted as well. So just want to keep that in mind. If you blow up a land with Generous Gift, it's still going to be 1 mana. It's just saying that it needs to be able to target a creature. Make your move, destroy target artifact, enchantment, or creature with power 4 or greater, 1 mana. This is supremely flexible. You could even make an argument that make your move is better than some of these, right? It's just super, super dynamic. Buddy mentions Pentarch Ward. We're definitely going to get that in a moment here. Other ones that we've gotten recently were like Destroy Evil, 1 mana, destroy target creature with toughness 4 or greater, which notably does tag Shipwreck Dowser, the new Archaeomancer, because it has prowess. It gets Moment of Valor, it gets Pneumatic Wall, and it probably gets a lot of like bigger things that we want. But it also destroys enchantments, which is great. Moment of Valor, 3 mana card, like not really that playable. In this deck, it's both protection, a buff. It's probably an Ambush Viper because we untap our creature, we can block, so we're going to gain a bunch of life, we're going to kill a creature, and then if we need to, we can destroy a creature with power 4 or greater. So we're going to have lots of tools to handle a wide array of problems, and that includes the impetus cards. Auras require a creature to target if they're a creature aura, right? So Martial Impetus and Parasitic Impetus, these cards are already like very, very good, but imagine casting them for 1 mana. And of course, the beauty of the impetus cards is that 1 mana, we play out that thing, and if our opponents don't want to be hit by that thing, they have to then spend their removal on a creature that wasn't maybe something they were going to kill, and then we get the 2 for 1. This is an amazing 2 for 1. Also, though, Parasitic Impetus, Martial Impetus, both of these cards can also just kind of go on Killian. If you just need to buff him up, like Parasitic Impetus, for example. We don't really mind that we would lose the life in that case because we're gaining it with Killian, and a +2/+2 is good. But there's other things like protection, because if we have a very commander-centric strategy, we need to be able to protect Killian. So cards like Benevolent Blessing, suddenly it's 1 mana, and it's 1 mana to target your opponent's creatures or ours. Blessing of Leeches, 1 black, instant speed, just regenerate the creature over and over. We lose a little bit of life, but we don't care because Killian just gains it back. And then we have cards like Apostle's Blessing and Angelic Intervention, and increasingly we are getting more of these protection spells that are incredibly dynamic that give us some other added bonus. Like Angelic Intervention protects you against colorless sources, which is huge because Aether Spellbomb is one of the most commonly played cards in the whole format. It is colorless, it's an activated ability, you have to have hexproof, protection doesn't stop it, and it leaves us a counter as well. And then Apostle's Blessing is literally just 2 life. You just pay 2 life. This is a free spell in Killian to protect our creature from artifacts as well as from creatures or colors. Yeah. So that's really big. So with that out of the way, I think that Killian, there's a time to shine right now. We got answers to absolutely everything. We've got so many ways to protect ourselves against edicts, and I think this is a fabulous place to be. So without further ado, let's get Brenin here in the chat and let's talk a little bit about the experience. So everybody, this is Brenin, and he is one of our top patrons through the Common Connoisseurs. How you doing today, Brenin?
I'm doing well. How's it going?
It's good. It is going. Chat stoked. They were asking about Pentarch Ward. Papoosh here saying Killian seems super fun. So Brenin, you played in the Open, the Sanctuary Open 4 with Killian, and before the event, we did some coaching. We were talking about commander choice, and some of the things. Tell the folks some of the things that you talked about that were important to you going into that tournament when we were deciding like what commander you would choose to play.
Yeah. So I wanted to pick your brain about sort of what commander to use. The tournament before this one, I used your Dalek deck. Really cool deck. I liked it. This one, I wanted to stay in black. I'm a black mage primarily. I love having a black kill spell in my hand. So I know I wanted to go black, but I did want to test the flexibility of a dual color, of a two-color deck, as opposed to mono black, which can be weak against artifacts and enchantment strategies. So I came to you and I was like, I want to do black plus another color.
Yeah, that's right.
But I also wanted to stay sort of true to what I like to play when I play Magic. I like to have answers in my hand. I like to have a kill spell in my hand. So I want to be a little bit reactive, but also get my game plan going and sort of push down that path. So we decided on mid-range.
Yeah. So that was a lot of really good guidance that you basically provided going into that. The idea being that you wanted answers in hand. You wanted to be able to answer the problems at the table. You wanted to always have answers. You wanted to be in black, something black, and that you wanted to have a way to push damage and to win the game ultimately. And Killian wasn't on that list of things that we were talking about, but you ended up choosing Killian. And how was your experience at the tournament? What was your record?
Yeah, so I won ones. I think I won my third round. I lost the other three. But I was doing what I wanted to do, which is I always had I had answers. I would say always. Sometimes I had that didn't have answers. But yeah, so I won one. I ended up I want to say 14 out of 28.
Okay.
So bottom of the top half, which is good for my second ever tournament.
Yeah. And this was, by the way, it's worth mentioning, this was your first ever cPedh tournament. Was it your first Magic tournament?
It was my second ever tournament.
Wow.
Not my first. Yeah, so this is just the second one. First one with my own deck design. So that still very new. I was thinking back to when I started. I started playing PDH last summer. And then I joined the Discord like a few months later.
Oh, yeah. That's fabulous.
So relatively new to the format and sort of thinking about the meta.
Yeah. Well, it's been really great working with you. And what we're gonna do today, folks, is we're gonna take a look at what Brenin built, what he brought to the tournament, and we're gonna work with that and see what we can do with it to try and improve on what we built, because we're both really excited about Killian. A little background on me for Killian. I've actually had Killian assembled for almost 3 years now, and what I found in my local meta was that it was a very control mid-range heavy meta. We didn't have as much combo, and Killian tended to cause people to kill Killian. It was very hard to keep Killian in play because Killian was enabling such amazing removal. And the edicts that we were all running, a lot of people running like mass edicts, were just super oppressive to Killian. Nowadays, I think the quality of edicts has become much more mixed, and we've talked about this quite a bit. Like, edicts don't always get what you want, right? And so as people have realized that, they've begun to shift away from them. We do have some people, pushing like I've even worked on that Honest Rutstein deck, which has like 8 Mass Edicts in it. We have like our Conrad enjoyers who are playing a lot of Mass Edict. But I think in a lot of cases, you're not going to have an issue with that. And there's ways that we can work around that. So I think it's a great time for Killian to shine. And the thing that's gotten me the most excited about it is cards like Generous Gift, the Impetus cards. Any sort of like cheap removal that hits like a dynamic array of creatures is really exciting. And so let's see what we can do with this. Walking through the list here first and foremost. So you had 31 lands here. Was there a Troll of Khazad-dûm in here, or an Eagle of the North, or was it just a low land count?
It was just a low land count. No, you're gonna get me on not playing Troll because I watch your videos. I learned. I do watch the videos, so I know about the cycling creatures.
They might not be right for this deck though.
It could be. I just went low because I was like, I want to do at least 30, but I was like, I can go a little bit less than I usually do, which is like 34, 35, because Killian is a discount.
Yeah. You don't need as much mana.
Yeah, even if he died, most of my curve is low, so I could still cast stuff.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, that certainly checks out. One of the things that we have in your list here, and we're going to see that in my version of Killian as well, is cards like Scourge Mark. And this is one of the things we're going to be working together collectively. And of course, for those of you in chat right now watching, this is a participant. I'm trying to say participatory, but basically, like we're all going to work on this together to try and make this Killian deck sing here. And so certainly post your ideas in the comments below here or in the chat. So that we can make this happen. So cards like Scourge Mark are going to be a big part of my question on this. Basically, what we're trying to do is have a draw suite with cards like Scourge Mark that are really cheap cantrips, like 1 mana, like buff my creature up, draw a card. And the question I'm going to be having around that is, should we just do Plunder instead? Should we just stick, because we're going to need a lot of card advantage, right? We're a control deck ultimately. With Killian. Killian wants us to be doing control. So the question is going to be for me, like, are these Scourge Mark? There's a whole bunch of them, like Grizzly Visage. Sugar Rush is actually a really good one that I saw in your deck that was pretty sweet. Are these cards where we want to be when it comes to drawing? So a couple of the things I noticed in your list here, you had Marauding Blight Priest. What was the thinking around Marauding Blight Priest? Was that to amplify the lifelink from Killian?
Right. So I'm still working on my meta analysis, but I'm a black mage primarily. I love playing edicts, so I was like, I have to have some creatures to dodge edicts, and I wanted value creatures that didn't just want, let me just put a body in here.
Yeah.
I wanted to, put Marauding Blight Priest. If it sticked, then I could gain life and join the table. And funnily enough, I watched the beginning where you were talking about not being extort, but I had an extort sub theme.
yeah. I see that you had extort cards in here, and that's fine. Like we're here to work on this and figure out the direction we want to take. So part of the reason that we don't want to be doing extort, I think, in Killian is one, because part of the benefit of extort is the life link, like the life gain element of it, and we already have that taken care of on Killian. But the other thing is that we're often, I think, going to kill people with commander damage. And so the little nickel and diming, the draining, is actually, it's kind of wasted in a sense, right? If we nickel and dime and we pay mana for all these extort triggers, and say we get like 4 or 5 of them off, and then we kill someone with commander damage, then the draining we did on that player was essentially wasted. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no. It when you were explaining it and sort of on retrospect, because not to jump ahead, but I had one game, somebody playing TPI, and at the end I just had a handful of extort creatures, and I was like, this is not what I need in my head.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is that extort creatures tend to be very good against TPI because every extort trigger is essentially gaining you 3 life, which is 3 pings. So an extort deck can keep up with a TPI deck like very well usually. But that was actually our game, wasn't it? That was was ours.
and they won. But yes, I had you just again. It was just a big board. I think we had Gretchen out, and I just had like 3 extort creatures, and I was like, I'd rather have 3 kill spells. I'd rather have my fog or something.
And you had like a lot of removal. You had plenty of removal options. You had sweepers. You had ways to get them, things like that too. So we're definitely going to look at that as well. So in your games, what are some broad general observations you had about how your games went?
Yeah. So game 1, which was the game you were in, and we were up against Gretchen, and then I want to say it was the not the Kedis, the Kesket.
Oh, yeah.
Dargo Kesket?
Yeah, Dargo Kesket. Yep.
Yeah. That one was a bit of like me trying to figure out what the threat assessment was, because I usually go for the combo player. But I've also learned when you're at the table that I need to keep an eye on you.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of your Killian attacks went my way. Which I think I just ate them, right? I didn't block very much.
Yeah, you just ate them.
Yeah.
That was sort of my big concern there. And I had like an early piece of removal that I used on Gretchen. It was like Chains of Custody.
Yep.
Which I love. Great killing spell. Love it for
Chains of Custody is another really good reason to be playing Killian right now. This card is so good. You like Heliod's Pilgrim, you get like your Edict fodder, and then you put your Chains of Custody into play, take away something of theirs, and then make it like extraordinarily hard to kill Killian. Like,
right.
Yeah.
That was, I think, a bit of a misplay because I used it on Gretchen early, and everybody was it's too early, and I was like, it wasn't
the Gretchen actually so much. It was more about the fact that killing Gretchen is almost never the target for removal. You want to be killing the untappers, because once they make infinite mana, they cast Gretchen infinite times.
No, so I was like, should I have held that? Should I have used it against you?
Yeah. And that game ended. We ended up. I think I ended up just grinding like a pretty insurmountable board presence. Because there were other people doing pretty scary stuff. And I was like not really attacking very much. I was sitting back. I didn't even have that many pingers in play until the end.
Right.
And then the Dargo Kesket player, they actually tried to go infinite at one point. The Gretchen player tried to do some scary stuff, but I ended up dying. And so it ended up being just you and I. And one of the things that it seemed to me was that you didn't really have any gas left in the tank, right? Would you say that's true?
Yeah, I would say that's definitely true.
Okay.
That was one of the things I was trying to work on with the deck last minute, was like I need enough draw spells to do stuff.
Yeah.
So to see as much as my deck as possible without going into sort of the 3. I didn't want to go into a lot of the 3 or 4 mana, lose 2 life, draw cards.
Yeah.
So like you said, let's try to put as many of the cantrips in there as possible.
Yep. And I think we might need to even go deeper with with Plunder to where we can get really ahead. Because one of the things I find with cheap cantrips that only draw you a card is that eventually, a certain proportion of them are lands, right?
Right.
And those aren't, there needs to be a way to get even more out of them. And maybe we can use something like Plunder with the cards like Renegade. What is it called? Renegade Intervention or something. It's like 3 mana, creature gets indestructible. You make a 1/1. And then using that as plunder fodder along with maybe some artifacts or something like that. Or maybe just creatures. Yeah, maybe like a Dusk Legion Zealot type stuff. Mordor Muster, where we just have a creature that draws a card and then we can sacrifice it to plunder later on.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely something to look at. I didn't go the plunder route just because I didn't feel like I had enough resources on the board to sacrifice.
Yeah, that's definitely a concern.
Where we do that.
Because that is a concern for sure. We want to make sure that we have a consistent source of things, and we're going to have to work out how to do that. But I do think that is important to the final build of Killian. Is we want to have built-in edict protection at every stage. We want to have card advantage consistently flowing, and we want to be able to maintain a high action economy. So, Okay, so now other broad observations that you had from the tournament. Were you
Yeah.
able to keep the cards flowing? Were you able to avoid dying to combo? Were you able to apply pressure and kill people?
Yes. So the second game was interesting because there was no combo player, I want to say.
Hmm.
Um, and that was funny because I was the threat because my level was remaining so high that
Mm-hmm.
everybody else, we got to kill him. So because I was doing damage and getting life every turn, and then at one point I had played Leon and Elder for
Yep.
the artifact ETB, and there was no that was an Aranix game. They weren't doing much, but there was still enough utility artifacts that I was gaining life consistently enough that
Yeah.
they were like, Lord Brennan's a threat. We gotta focus on him. The other problem was the other two of the players had go wide strategies. One was the token, like a lot of tokens, and one was a
Mm,
Rasad. So I had a few sweepers. I had the big three in there. But at a certain point, it was just like I have two kill spells in hand, and there are 12 creatures. I'm staring down
yeah.
12 creatures.
Right. And how do you even
Uh,
like punch through that at that point? Like you need something
right.
like your angelic gift or your Ashra's favor or protection or something like that. So that definitely seems like something we're going to want to solve for as well. I think Killian probably will be large enough that we don't need to worry too much about dying to our own sweepers. But there will be a question in mind for me, which is like, are we actually worried about go wide? Because if we can just fly eventually, right? And go wide decks usually don't do like commander damage, and commander damage is one of the ways we could die in Killian, even though we're gaining life, right?
Mhm.
So it seems to me that like just using our kill spells to take care of problems and then pushing damage in some sort of evasive fashion will be kind of the key here. Erosium mentions for the plunder idea, there's a suite of 4-ish mana removal spells in black that make a token. Might be useful later. Absolutely. We've gotten a whole bunch of those. They're like two and then two colorless and two black. Make a food, make a treasure, things like that. They're instant speed, like Deadly Derision is one of them that we could look at as well. That might actually be really important. Although I think for the plunder, if we can pair our edict protection with our plundering, that's going to be kind of like getting two birds stoned at once, which I think instead of focusing on, although Deadly Derision is still 1 mana, right? It's 2 black, but you get a treasure back. So Deadly Derision would actually be a really good one for this list as well. It's just 4 mana kill a thing, but in this deck it's 2 mana kill a thing, make a treasure, so you get 1 mana back, and then we can plunder that away. So yeah. So in this list here, some of the things that I'm noticing here are there are like good Orzhov cards in it that we traditionally want to see in white and black, right? We've got edicts like Fleshbag Marauder. We've got Dimir Houseguard, which can tutor up good things in white and black. We have the Extort, which is traditionally good in Orzhov. Um, we have some combo protection like Bloodseeker. I really like that here. And then Leon and Elder and Soul Warden. These are like good white cards. But some of what we're looking at here to me is a little bit of lacking focus on what Killian really does super super well and trying to maximize on that. So when we take this list here, let's compare it to um, actually why don't we do this? Let's duplicate it and then we'll go from here. And I'm gonna just start pulling cards out and we'll talk about the ones we're gonna pull here. So
Sure.
Fleshbag Marauder is a really interesting one. Fleshbag Marauder can cause problems because if Fleshbag Marauder gets killed on the stack, with the ETB on the stack, it can cause you to sack Killian. And so when we're playing Killian, we never want to play cards that people can like just lightning bolt this thing and then make us sack Killian. So even though we could protect the Fleshbag Marauder, right, so that we didn't have that happen, then we're having to spend a protection spell where otherwise we wouldn't. So we're gonna cut the Fleshbag Marauder type cards. We're only gonna if we play Edict, we're only gonna play ones that are only opponents, right? So like Vraska's Fall could be there. Tithing Blade, Extract a Confession. We could probably play those cards. I really like having Suture Priest and Bloodseeker in here. I think this is a great choice. These don't draw us cards, but they are Edict protection, right? And they're also
Right.
exceptionally good at beating like combo, go wide type stuff. So I think that's going to be a really good thing to hold on to here. Dimir Houseguard, you had this in the list. What were you envisioning that you'd get with it, that you'd find with it?
Really, I was envisioning
The
I would
sweepers?
only two options in there. I think it's Snuff Out and Arms of Adar.
Yeah, and then
Uh,
Arms of Adar. Yeah, well,
I didn't actually use it to tutor for Arms of Adar during the game. It got countered.
yep.
I did
Yes.
actually do it
So
during one of the games.
So we're gonna. Oh yeah, Arms of Adar would have been devastating for sure for me. We're gonna remove this one. Dimir Houseguard is really good when you're in colors where you can get like Vicious Battle Rager, Trailblazer's Torch, Pestilence, Siphon Mind, Chain Devil, Snuff Out. There's actually more. You can even go deeper into some of the black, like even Befoul, right, which destroys a land.
Right.
We don't have very many of those, so we're going to remove that one here and cut that. Darkness is a really powerful card, but because we're in white, usually when we're in white, we don't play Darkness because white has better fogs that we can play. Darkness is powerful when you're not in a color that does fogs, and then you have a 1 mana fog, right? Because nobody really can. It's hard to prepare for a card that doesn't have any replicate of it. There's only one black fog in existence, and it just happens to be
Right.
really good, But like it's good because it's color shifted. Whereas when we're in white, they expect fogs, and so this is just like a suboptimal fog. And we don't. I think there's some fogs that we can play that you already have that can do the same thing. So let's get rid of darkness. And to mention that specifically, we had. Where was that one that you had? You had Dawn Charm.
Is it in there?
Where's Dawn
Yep.
Charm? Dawn
Thought it
Charm.
was.
There it is. Dawn Charm is a great example of the kind of fog we would play because it's so flexible. This is 1 mana, prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn, or regenerate our Killian, or counter a spell that targets us. This has like infinite usability. People don't usually play like targeted edicts, but there is like a chance that we could counter like a Chainer's Edict type card. That's certainly a possibility. So Dawn Charm, definitely kind of where we want to be here. Let's organize this under fogs and then protection, like that. And actually, maybe what we can do is we'll swap over to the list that I've got right here, and then we can come back and blend the two together because I think you've got a lot of good choices in here. But I want to show folks what I have in mind for some of the really exciting cards that Killian has gotten. So this is a list that I've had up for a long time. It was languishing for a while because I was just working on other things, but there's 154 cards in this list. And the question is, which ones do we want to be playing? And so let's get some of these organized here into their spots for, let's see, removal, just so we know what we can cut. We've got Destroy Evil, which is going to be a removal spell, but it's also a disenchant. We had Flare of Faith here, which is +2/+2, or if it's a human, so Killian being a human gains +3/+3 and indestructible for 1 mana. I think that's pretty good. We got Orcish Medicine. This is a pretty exciting one. Target creature gains... This is like the ultimate protection spell in this deck. Target creature gains indestructible or lifelink. We're going to choose indestructible, and we're going to make a 1/1 Orc army token. So this is both protection for Killian against edicts and against targeted removal. And this is definitely something we're going to want. This is going to be a creature as well. And that's only 1 mana because it's targeting the creature. We have Make Your Move here, which is going to be a removal spell for killing things as well as for disenchanting things. That one's one of the really exciting ones. A Moment of Valor. So it feels to me like part of what we're trying to do here is have cards that are exceptionally dynamic. Moment of Valor just having like all these different modes on it. Renegade's Getaway is the one I was talking about before. The 3 mana target permanent, which is kind of wild, gains indestructible, and then you make a 1/1 colorless servo artifact creature token. This is perfect. Protection, it's a creature. Scroll Shift, I think, is one that I was kind of looking at as well, but I think because it's 1 mana, flicker something, draw a card. But I don't think that we're going to have a lot of things that we actually want to flicker. We could flicker our auras, which is kind of gross, right? Like if your opponent has a Shroud creature, for example, or a Hexproof creature, you can flicker something like a Spectral Grasp or a Reprobation. And when you flicker it, it just comes into play on something. It doesn't target it. So it actually gets around Shroud and Hexproof. So the thought here was that Scroll Shift might be kind of useful, but I think it's going to go on the sideboard for now. Deadly Derision, pretty good. I like Deadly Derision. Spirit Flare, I put this one in here. I was kind of interested in it. 4 mana instant, tap target untapped creature you control. If you do, it deals damage equal to its power to target attacking or blocking creature. So whatever Killian's power is, we do damage to it, and the creature does the damage, so it's got lifelink, and we can do it twice. The first one is 2 mana, the second one is 1 with paying 3 life. Kind of an interesting card, but I think we're just going to throw it in sideboard for the moment. Have you seen this one, Brenin? Feast or Famine?
I have not seen that one.
Yeah, so 4 mana, destroy target non-artifact, non-black creature. It can't be regenerated, or create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. So essentially, this is like we can protect ourselves from an edict, or we can kill something. What do you think about this one?
I like the flexibility. I'm very up on spells that in the modal spells that you can sort of choose what works best.
Yeah.
So I'm into that.
Okay, sweet. And then, okay, so we've got a couple of other things here. Blessed Hippogriff is an option as well. This one is 1 mana, grants indestructible until end of turn, and then 4 mana, it comes out as a 2/3. It grants flying to target attacking creature each turn. So whenever it attacks, it's going to grant flying to our Killian, which I thought would be kind of interesting. It's not the best protection spell we have. Like indestructible is not the best kind of protection for this deck, but it is a creature. It does grant evasion. It's only 1 mana. So this one we'll be coming back to that. Slumbering Keepguard, I think, it's got this enchantment clause. Currently, we're probably going to end the deck with like 25, 30 enchantments. This one's scrying every time they come into play. And it itself can become quite big, I guess, if we pay the mana for it. But I think we could probably do a little bit better than that. So let's throw that to the sideboard. This is a bit of chaos here because there's just one of the things you'll learn when you're working on Killian chat is that there are so many good cards for it, and they all have like a good, purpose. So let's do a little search. O target, O creature, and then O token. Let's just see what we have, and then type instant. I think that's what we want. We'll look at the sorceries too, but let's see what we got here. Baked into a pie would be destroy target creature, create a food. We could consider that. I've had Beckon Apparition in here. This one exiles a card from a graveyard and makes a 1/1 flying spirit creature token. So this is also going to work with Plunder. This will protect us against Edict. It's good graveyard hate. So I think that could be a solid choice. Charge of the Mites is another one, but this one is only a kill spell when we have lots of creatures in our deck, and we don't. So the fact that it can create tokens at instant speed, probably not premium. I noticed you had Fake Your Own Death in there. And was that for Killian, or was that for like Heliod's Pilgrim or something?
Yeah, that was for Killian.
Because the problem with this one is that if he dies, we lose all the auras, right? So
right, yeah, that is the problem, which is why I needed to not use that one. But yeah,
right, that would be one I would look at. This is another one we could look at here too. Feed the Cauldron. 3 mana, destroy target creature with mana value 3 or less, which isn't very good, right? But for 1 mana, it's fine. But like in Killian, we have access to like 1 mana destroy anything, right?
Right.
But this does create a food token, and if we are interested in plundering, that might be something we prioritize. Fungal infection also makes a 1/1, which is interesting, but -1/-1 is pretty terrible. Funeral pyre we would play, except for that it gives our opponent the flying token, so it's not very good. What do we have here? Target opponent exiles a card from their graveyard. You create. Oh, they exile a card from their graveyard. That's kind of interesting. And then you create a 1/1 colorless Scion artifact creature token. Okay, this is really interesting. This card is a 1 mana Dusk Legion Zealot on a creature that can sacrifice itself for mana. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right? Dusk Legion Zealot is a 2 mana 1/1 that draws a card when it enters the battlefield. And this is literally just like better than that in every single way.
Oh, I did not see that one when I was looking.
That's perfectly up our route. Yeah, Erosia mentions Rat Out and Fungal Infection. I don't think we're going to play those because the card itself is so terrible. I know people are experimenting with Fungal Infection and Rat Out, but -1/-1 does not kill enough things. -2/-2, you can kill a lot of important things with it, but not -1/-1. Pegasus Guardian is flickering. We don't really want to flicker. Yeah, and it does not target a creature though. Oh, Erosium, you're right. Target opponent exiles a card in their graveyard. Yeah, this doesn't target any creature, so it's 3 mana. Yeah, that's a good point, Erosium. Yep.
Thank you for pointing that out. That's why we didn't.
Yeah, that is wild. That's why we need people like you in chat. We've got Rotten Reunion as well. So we're actually like, even though we're focused on killing creatures and like, and like other permanents, I think having like a good amount of graveyard hate is a good way to actually create our Edict fodder, because Rotten Reunion for 1 mana makes Edict fodder, and it can do it again for 2.
Yeah,
while also being busted. Like,
very up on graveyard hate. I think people need to run more.
Yeah.
I've just come across too many decks that abuse the graveyard, so I'm always worried about it.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely a good thing to be keeping in mind. So here we have Violet Pall, which is a terrible spell. But this deck can play a whole bunch of terrible spells and make them look really good. This is a 3 mana instant, destroy target non-black creature, create a 1/1 flying fairy token. I think if this were 2 mana, we would play it, right? But it's 3, so probably not.
Yeah, and we didn't talk about it much, but my third game, which people still do not believe me, the third game in the tournament, this game lasted 28 rounds because it ended up being me and another mono black player, and so we were just draw go a lot of the time. So I've been not as up on the non-black, the sort of the conditional removal, and that's maybe me just judging too hard based on what I've come across. But I like had a stuff out that I couldn't use.
Yeah.
I had whatever the other one I have, and I don't know. There's like another one in the deck that I was like, I can't use this. Spinning Dark.
Oh, Spinning Darkness. Yeah.
I can't use these.
Yeah. And that's okay, because like we're going to have so much removal that we play those mainly for efficiency. And one of the things about Killian that's interesting in that regard is just because we don't get a discount on a card doesn't mean we shouldn't play it. Because if a card is good enough, if it's just 1 mana already, then we should play it. Like Vendetta, we don't get any discount benefit on Vendetta. But we're a black deck or an Orzhov deck that gains life, and that's a 1 mana kill spell. And 1 mana is like where we want to be, right? So that's another thing to keep in mind too. Like we might still just play those cards. Here's another one. You're confronted by Robbers, which would be a 2 mana tap up to 3 target creatures or create 3 1/1 white soldier tokens. Tapping down stuff is like not necessarily my favorite, but we could throw it in just for the time being as like Edict fodder.
I saw a few of the cantrip B ones that I didn't end up putting in were like tap target creature, or draw a card or tap 2 target creatures, draw a card. I wasn't quite sure I wanted them, but
Yeah.
but looking, well, they would draw me another card.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, here's a good one. Contract killing. Woo! So this would cost us 3 mana, which is a lot up front, but it destroys a creature and then gives us 2 treasure tokens. It is sorcery speed, so this one maybe doesn't really make the cut, but that's kind of an interesting thought. What else do we have here? We have like Grim Bounty, which is the same thing as Deadly Derision, but worse.
I don't hate that, thinking about it, because I was trying to sort of draw go when I had answers in my hand, but it's sorcery, but we still get the discount and we get the treasures, so I can use the treasures for that draw go strategy later.
Yeah, I mean, it's 1 mana, right? Like when you do the math on it, right? Like we get the treasures back. And the cool thing is that if we don't need the treasures, we can plunder them away, right?
Right. I don't hate that.
I think that's pretty darn cool, huh? There's also Grim Bounty, which is a sorcery speed version of Deadly Derision. So it's double black, create a treasure token. It is sorcery speed though. And again, like, you know, part of what we have to decide is like, you know, we have like access to all these 3 mana black spells that just say destroy target creature for 1 mana at instant speed. So we're getting an instant speed 1 mana kill spell, whereas these are sorcery speed and they give us a treasure. I think that the sorcery speed is partly what's killing it for me a little bit here, but we'll just have to see. We'll throw them in for now and see where it goes. Okay, we've got Return Triumphant. No. Rite of the Serpent. No. Secure the Scene. Its controller makes a 1/1. Shatter the Oath, destroy target creature or enchantment, create a Wicked Roll token attached to our commander, and then Warren Weirding, which makes tokens as well. So I think we have run out of options. There's like Emergency Weld, but that one doesn't target a creature in play. Mourner's Surprise. Oh, wait a second. Does this buffs up okay, so but this is returning creatures from our hand, graveyard to our hand. We don't want that. Okay, so now we need to do target. What about type aura? O token. Right? So we want to see, so O target creature. Auras don't have target written in them. So you go creature, O token. Okay, so Cartouche of Solidarity, already in the deck, 1 mana, makes a 1/1 white soldier or warrior token with vigilance. We get +1/+1 in first strike, which is really good. First strike and menace is like very mean. Knightly Valor is another one, right? This is 3 mana, make a 2/2 with vigilance, and then Killian gets +2/+2 in vigilance. We've also got Nurturing Presence here, which is 1 mana. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield, the creature is going to get +1/+1. But then it's really like 1 mana, make a 1/1 flying creature token. It's because the buff isn't going to matter that much, right? Like, we don't have lots of creatures in the deck. Yeah, I don't think Nurturing Presence makes the cut. Here's one, Parasitic Implant. At the beginning of your upkeep, enchanted creature's controller sacrifices it, and you create a 1/1 colorless Phyrexian Mirror artifact creature token. So this is kind of weird. It's almost like it's like an edict that makes a creature for us, but only targets one person. Edicts usually exist for the purpose of hitting something that cannot be targeted. So I'm a little hesitant about that. And then Squire's Devotion is money. +1/+1, makes us a soldier token with lifelink. It's basically a second copy of Cartouche of Solidarity with worse keywords, because lifelink doesn't matter on Killian. He's already got it.
Right.
Okay, so that's auras. So now we need to do type creature, and MV is got to be like 2 or less, and then O enter, and let's say O draw, and just see what comes up here. So Dusk Legion Zealot, Spirited Companion. And then
Yeah.
Erosium says, depending on how deep you go into making the creatures, Charge of the Mites isn't terrible. Yeah, Charge of the Mites isn't terrible. I don't think it's very good, though. The Mites don't block. We don't have a lot of creatures, so it's not going to deal a lot of damage. But it is instant speed token generation, but I think we could probably do better. I forgot to mention we also get to play Haunt of the Dead Marshes, which is pretty cool because Killian's a legend. So 1 mana, scry 1, we can return it at instant speed to the battlefield. We could also play Persistent Specimen. Yeah, Persistent Specimen would be a good one if we do end up going down the Plunder route. Okay, we've already got it. We've got Cathar Commando in here. I put Standard Bearer in too. This is a card that people will pretty regularly tell you to not put in decks because it can do bad things to you. If you play Standard Bearer in like a white deck that doesn't have good removal, and an opponent goes for a Flicker combo, the Standard Bearer has to die before somebody can target the Flicker combo. Which means that the Standard Bearer can essentially like run cover for a Flicker combo. But where Standard Bearer is amazing is in colors where, like with black, where we have lots of removal. Because Standard Bearer then is like it's edict fodder, it's protecting Killian, and we're the responsible party that's like we're responsible for removing things. Right, and so the Standard Bearer does a lot for us there. I think that's going to be a really good one. I have Coalition Honor Guard in here for the same reason, but it's 4 mana, so I don't think that's going to make the cut. Blessed Hippogriff, probably not good enough. Knightly Valor felt a little questionable at 3 mana. That one could probably go to the sideboard for now. The Guildsworn Prowler effects also work, but not as... Yeah, no, the Prowlers are great. So O dies, O draw. So we would want to play Guildsworn Prowler, Novice Occultist, Outlaw. Dude, Medic Outlaw. I don't know if you...
I saw that one. Yeah.
This is great. Yeah. This doesn't get... The cool thing about this one is it doesn't get cleaned up by sweepers. So if somebody goes like Fiery Cannonade, untap, Fleshbag Marauder, they're not going to be able to like 1-2 punch our Killian out of the game, which is sweet. There's also Filigree Familiar, but I don't think I want to pay 3 mana.
I don't think 3 is where we want to be for creatures.
Yeah. Like almost as a rule, we don't want to be paying anything more than 2 for almost anything, right?
Right.
There's some of these ones. I kind of want to move away from these cards. Grizzly Transformation, like Scourge Mark, Krovokan Fetish. Let's just cut these now because I have played with those a lot and I am not super high on them. They've not been good. Pentarch Ward is in the deck. We are going to play that. The reason we can play Pentarch Ward is we're going to have so much protection in here that inviting the 2-for-1 is going to be okay. The problem with Pentarch Ward is that it's 3 mana usually. It's like it's a terrible card. Like Pentarch Ward is not good. Okay, like protection spells are at their best when you can like interact with your opponent at instant speed with your thing. You can also protect your own thing. The fact that it draws a card doesn't matter because if you cast it on your commander at sorcery speed and your opponent realizes that they're going to name black and that your removal is all black, they have to kill that thing right now. And if they do, then you lose your commander and the protection spell instead of just like countering their kill spell when they initiate the kill and then protecting our commander. But Pentarch Ward is 1 mana in this deck. And we have other protection spells, lots and lots of protection. So I think this is going to be fine. I have Dark Dabbling in here as well. Regenerate target creature, draw a card, and then if there are 2 or more instants and sorceries, you regenerate each other creature you control. So this, if somebody tries to sweep us to get rid of our dudes, this is 1 mana, draw a card, protect our Killian, protect everything else. It's kind of nice.
Yeah. No,
Scavenged
it's not.
weaponry. I don't know. Probably.
What's this one?
It's a 3 mana. It's a one mana +1/+1 draw card.
Oh,
Yeah. Um,
and I was running all of those I could, but if there's a
right.
better way.
I think the plunder is going to do better for us. The other thing we could look at is that there's all these stun effects, like plunge into winter, repel the darkness, shoulder to shoulder, which are all 1 mana. Actually, shoulder to shoulder is pretty nice. It's +2/+2 and draw a card. So this is actually quite a bit better than like Scourge Mark, right? Because Scourge Mark is +1/+1. So that one seems good. Rowan's Grim Search should be good with the enchantments, actually. But Read the Bones could probably go. Siphon Mind, we could potentially play. Sign in Blood. Scion of Halaster. What do you think about this one?
So the background where you look at the top two and then you put one in the bin.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm still precious in the sense that I like having my cards, but I am also trying to be more ruthless, and I think looking at more cards is better. Uh, so I don't hate that actually. I don't.
Right.
In terms of improving a game, I think that's actually a good card to have in the deck, and for me as a player, what my weaknesses are is you need to be okay with like binning cards, being more selective of what you need to keep.
Yeah. I kind of like it because this card wants to be in like a commander centric deck with a cheap commander.
Yeah.
And we will probably like the goal is definitely not to allow Killian to die. Right. And Scion of Halaster, plays into that by saying like we're already protecting our commander very vigorously. So this card is basically saying we're going to get better card selection. It's not drawing us a card, which is interesting. Like if we top deck this in the late game or the mid game, it might feel pretty bad because it's not actually drawing a card. It's actually card negative. It's just filtering through stuff. Erosia mentions as well that the Dies creatures are really good against edicts as well because then we draw a card because they edicted us. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, no, that's very interesting, especially
the medic, the occultist, the prowler.
Games I was playing against Clay, Sir Conrad deck, and then the deck they were just sweeping the board, editing constantly. Like nobody kept like I cast Killian for like 12 at the end of that game, and he was just nothing could stay.
That is quite gnarly.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's look at here. We're going to get a couple more of these creatures allocated over here. Okay, there we go. Oh, interesting. Here's a question. Does this card target? It has an ability on it. So spells that you cast, spells that we cast that target creatures are 2 less to cast. Break Ties does not cast and target creatures. It can only be discarded to do it. So Break Ties probably doesn't work here, actually.
Right. That's interesting, though.
Yeah. We could probably cut Troll. I don't know that Troll is important to our game plan. So.
I love Troll when there's a potential to get him back or get them back later.
Yeah, that makes sense. And there really isn't that here, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so some of the things, there is a section of this deck that needs to be dedicated to like Voltron type stuff, basically. And so I have a section for Pump.
Yeah, I thought my deck was a bit too weak on that. I think it was too Killspell heavy. I think it was like 13 or 14 I had, and I was like, it should be higher. It should be more equal.
Got it.
Voltron control. At least in my mind. After looking at it afterwards, I was like, I don't know if I have enough Voltron in here.
Right. Yeah, so we can definitely work on that. Ideally, we don't want to put things here that only serve one goal. So like
Right.
Angelic Gift is great. We're drawing a card, getting evasion. All the glitters would be like one of the only cards that doesn't serve multiple goals. It's just like this is just a kill somebody card, right? Like you're just killing them with it. Um, there's Eternal Thirst here. Whenever an opponent dies, I don't think this is going to be very good. It's not actually giving us anything because it's lifelink. Sadistically is in the deck though, and the reason I had cards like that one, where was it, Eternal Thirst, is because whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, means that when our commander grows when other things die. Um,
Right.
so maybe that's good, but like we could also just focus on cards that just give us power, right? They just give us something right away. It doesn't take any tricks, doesn't take anything happening. That's probably better than playing like sadistically. Although sadistically triggers off of all creatures whenever any creature is put into a graveyard. So us plundering our creatures away would actually work. That's kind of interesting. And then we also have like Core Halberd here, which is basically attach. So the attach is an activated ability, not a cast. So this is a 2 mana +1/+1 vigilance, which might not be good enough ultimately, right? Um,
Yeah, I wasn't very up on equipment. I had two. I had both of mine were meant to make Killian unblockable, just like
right. Yeah,
right.
we want auras more than we want equipment because equipment,
Yes.
yeah, it's like
Yes.
not getting discounted at all.
Yeah.
I have Mammoth Umbra in here as a card to look at. It's 3 mana +3/+3 vigilance and totem armor. So it's actually like a lot of stats. It is vigilance, and when we give vigilance to a lifelinking creature, that's part of the reason Core Halberd was in there. Um, is that Core Halberd gives vigilance, right? And
I
+3/+3
like
is huge.
Yeah, it that was one of the final ones on my list that I cut the night
Yeah.
before. Like I wanted vigilance. Specifically, I was like, I need vigilance. My creature, I don't want to keep tapping out. I want vigilance. But I was like, it's 3 mana. But yes, no, I'm up on totem armor and vigilance. I'm up on both
Okay.
of those.
And I also had under protection. We got to get blessed. Oh yeah, benevolent bodyguards over there. Um, we've got where is it? Um, where's Hyena Umbra? That was the other one, Hyena Umbra. Which will be another one. What other totem armor do we have? O totem, O armor. Is it just? Oh, and it's a land Umbra, which is 1 mana +0/+4. I, I mean, I guess it makes it really easy to attack without Killian dying. We don't die to sweepers.
Yeah,
Um, it
blocks. Yeah, it's
it's
maybe seven.
fine.
Yeah,
I don't
there
know.
were I had that were toughness. That was like, well, it drew me a card and it gave him +0, +2 or 3 or something. So
Right.
I didn't, but I was like not loving it either.
Yeah, that makes sense. Here's a couple of other vigilance one. We've got Dragon Scales, 1 mana +1/+2 vigilance. I think that one's actually like a good rate for vigilance. We definitely like that more
Yeah.
than the halberd. And then there's another one here that I had, which was Candlelight Vigil, +3/+2 vigilance for 2. I think we're pretty happy with that, right?
No, I like that.
Okay,
Yes.
good, good. Um, we've got all the glitters. Are we missing any like major stuff? I had Grasp of the Hieromancer as well. Um, I don't know how good this is in this deck because it's just +1/+1, and we're like tapping something down every turn. But like, what are we so afraid of that we don't want it to block?
Right.
Like if it iced it, that would be a completely different story,
Yeah.
right? Like if it didn't untap.
But yeah, no, I don't think we're up on that one. I think we're not afraid of anything. Anything we're not afraid of, we should be killing.
Yeah, we just kill it, right? We just put it in the dirt. Um, I'm a big fan of Triclopian Sight in this deck, though. 1 mana, flash, untap our creature, +1/+1 in vigilance. This is like an ambush viper, right? Like, and it grants vigilance forever.
I like that a
Very
lot.
nice, huh? This is like a kill spell too. You know somebody's gonna swing at us and just be like, just so pissed off when we use this on them.
Yeah, no, again, I was playing him. I had kills with my hand, but I was like, I want to attack every turn. He has menace, he has lifelink.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, let's go. Like, let's
yeah,
let's
yeah. You want to punch. We
battle.
right. Yeah, we want to be punching for sure. Squire's Devotion is an interesting one. I'm kind of wondering whether this is actually not not that good because it's not giving us a relevant keyword. It's giving us +1 power to Killian, but then it's just making a token. So like, would we be better off just playing like any 1 mana creature? Like we could just like, yeah, actually look at this. So Squire's Devotion could go, and we could literally play. Oh, dude, I got it. Okay, check this out. 1 mana type creature. O creature. O token. O dies.
Oh, okay.
Because what does Plunder love? Creatures that replace themselves when they die. What
Right.
do Edict players everywhere hate? Creatures like this, like Doomed Traveler, Nested Shambler, Nezumi Linebreaker can actually pump our Killian. Um, Hunted Witness, Garrison Cat. We wouldn't do Crawling Chorus or Shambling Ghast because this one just creates a treasure, and this one, the token that you create doesn't block. So
Right.
these seem good. That's actually a really cool avenue, right? Like just to having good plundering is just having those creatures in there. I think Grim Bounty is not going to make the cut. I'm just going to cut that one preemptively. You're confronted by robbers, probably not good enough either. Grave Birthing does not work, right? Because it doesn't target. What did you think about Feed the Cauldron? So it's killing any untapper and any scout.
Isn't there another one that's better, like anointed something, confliction,
Oh,
anointed some?
Anointed Affliction? Anoint with Affliction.
Yeah,
This one?
yeah. This is an exile,
This one
or is it,
exiles, yep. But the reason that we brought this one over was because it was making a food token that we could plunder away.
so yeah, I get yes, if we're going down the plunder route, we
We might
need
need it.
food.
Yeah, we need things to eat exactly.
Yeah,
And we're gonna have. I mean, we're gonna have to cut so much good removal. In fact, Afterlife is one that we're gonna cut here. This is one that initially looks really good. It's 1 mana, destroy target creature. It can't be regenerated. Its controller creates a 1/1 flying creature token. Um,
yeah, I saw that one
we
after
don't
I.
want that. A flying blocker is actually kind of miserable, isn't it? Actually, we have Menace. So if they have no flying blockers and we give them a flying blocker, it doesn't matter.
Right. That's yeah. I was thinking about this afterwards. It's in my current sideboard,
I
or
think
just
Afterlife is actually good, right? Because it is just 1 mana, destroy a creature. Like,
yeah.
no subtext, no. um,
Yeah, I'm up on non-conditional removal.
Angelic Purge can probably go because this one is sorcery speed.
Yeah, and you have to sack a permanent, and we want
We
to.
have to sack a creature, but we don't really want to be sacking our creatures.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, okay. So we can get rid of that one. Do you have Ashes to Ashes in your deck?
I crap. Do I?
So,
Uh,
so it's kind of like,
I have been swapping this into a lot of my decks now because of you and your reasoning about even without a discount, it exiles two things, and
right.
then
So it's 2 kill spells on 1 card, and they're
right,
both 1 mana, right?
and 5 life is literally nothing.
Yeah, five. I
Uh,
mean, 5 life could be a problem, but we probably gain it back, right?
yeah, in the right deck, like either in like a mono black or like a
Or in this
Rosar,
deck, we just punch people.
there's enough life gain to offset it. So I don't have it in the version I played, but I think it should definitely go in whatever the rework is because I just like the 2 for 1.
Yeah, absolutely. Grotesque Demise could probably go. Exile target creature with power 3 or less. It doesn't have any other added upside, so let's drop that one. And then Martial Impetus can go under Pump as well, and so can Parasitic Impetus because we can use them that way. Repel the Darkness. So what did you? You know what? Actually, let's just skip that. I don't think these tapping down creatures is good. Like, would we rather tap something down and draw a card or kill something? Right? Like, yeah, just kill it.
Well, yeah, okay, so the perfect world we would kill something, but we got to look at the draw speed at the end because again, I had 21 and I was like, I need more cards.
Yeah. So let's do this. So type instant, O draw, O2, O sacrifice, like that. And this is going to give us all of our plunder. So we could play, and by the way, Erosia mentions that Shambler is nuts because we actually have the potential to buff it up and then sacrifice it to make lots and lots of squirrels.
No, that's true.
He also says that if you put all that glitters on the Shambler, then you can make lots of squirrels. Many.
Killian becomes a go wide strategy. I love it.
Yeah, exactly.
Alternate way.
So it looks to me like this deck. This deck doesn't look to me like a Corrupted Conviction Village Rites deck.
I agree.
I mean, it could be potentially. It's kind of. It could work. There's just going to be times where we have those cards and we don't have something we want to sacrifice.
Right.
That'll
Like,
feel bad.
I have Deadly Dispute, but I don't have anything. Well, Village Rights. I love the 1 mana, but
right.
Yeah.
And I mean, do we have Night's Whisper in here too? Night's Whisper. We probably yeah, we've got it. Okay, good. And then we're gonna need like the fodder to be online as well. So I have Pestilence in here as well. I think it's gonna be a good card for this deck because Pestilence is at its best when you don't lose the creature as well, right? You don't lose when you have the creature in play that's going to make Pestilence not go away. The only problem though is that Pestilence is like so inefficient compared to the rest of the deck, right? Like there's a part of me that wonders whether we should just like not run sweepers. What do you?
Ugh, that's scary.
I know.
Terrifying. I see what you mean.
Drown in Sorrow, yes. Right.
Yeah.
But like, and Pestilence is a great win condition too, right? This is a game-ending card if we resolve it with a big Killian in play.
Right.
Right. It's just game over.
Yeah. Not having it completely.
Yeah. I think you're right to be concerned about it. Let's keep it for now, along with
Keep it for
Drown in
now.
Sorrow, but we don't need to go. I don't think we need to go super deep into Wraths. Like if you think about what a Wrath is for, it's for decks that go wide. But decks that go wide don't really worry us because we gain life and they're not doing commander damage to us. Right? Yeah, it's a way to close the game out. Exactly. Like you could easily, like land a Pestilence. Killian is maybe like a 6/6 or something. Like, and nobody can keep creatures in play anymore. They can't even have blockers. That's another thing. Pestilence will clear blockers.
It's true.
So that Killian can punch. And then Erosia mentions, is this a Monarch deck too? Just thinking about how we can blast almost anything and our commander has Menace.
Yeah, that's your thoughts. I did not put Initiative and Monarch in my decks, which felt wrong because I love those cards. I felt wrong, but my thought was I don't want to be attacked for the Monarch or Initiative. Like, don't attack me. As much as I still have the life gain, I was still like, my thought was, I was more on the lines of like, don't look at me.
Yeah,
look
right.
At
we would hate to become.
Yeah.
Like we would hate to become like a distraction from the other problems at the table. Because here's the way I see it is if we play the Monarch in the Initiative, and the Initiative is actually significantly more attractive than the Monarch because the +2/+2 on the Forge is really good. But
For sure.
but what I think of is that if we have the answers to the combo and we have the initiative, then someone can like be like can sort of like bully us a little bit,
Hmm.
um, and be like, you can't kill my thing right now because you've got those kill spells are for something else. I don't know. Like you're never going to have enough kill spells in a deck to kill everything that's threatening you, and I think we want to be able to swing with Killian without worrying about having to protect the initiative, if that makes sense.
Right.
I don't want to have to sit back with Killian. I do want to punch with Killian like early and often.
Yeah.
Just chipping in for little bits of damage, like buffering our life total, that kind of stuff. So there's a part of me that thinks that initiative and monarch is the wrong approach. Let me take a
Yeah.
type
Me
war.
too. This again, it felt wrong because according to common connoisseurs, you should be playing these cards in almost every deck.
I think that there's a lot of good reasons to be running Monarch and Initiative. I think this is not the one though, right? It's not the right deck.
Right. Yeah, that's where I landed on my version. I was like, it feels bad, but this is not where I want to be right now.
Yeah. Um, I'm looking at other draw spells. Casting of Bones is a really interesting one. I think we want to play this. When enchanted creature dies, draw 3 and discard 1.
Ooh, I did not come across that. I like that.
That's spicy. And it's funny. This is a card that was in my sideboard because it was like um, I had played it before on Killian to say like, okay, so like Killian's probably going to die at some point, and if he does, then I'll draw a bunch of cards. But now if we're doing Plunder, then this is like actually a 1 mana draw 3 discard 1. You have to draw 3, discard 1 of the cards you draw. Draw 3 cards and discard 1 of them. That's really weird. How do you track that? Like, how do you draw 3 cards into your hand and then like?
Yeah, has that been erratic to say discard one of the ones you drew? Is that what that means?
Yeah, when enchanted creature dies, draw 3 cards, comma, then discard 1 of them. It seems to imply you
Yeah.
discard 1 of the 3, but there's no way to verify that.
Right.
And it's not public information. It just goes into your hand. So you could like, that's kind of weird. I wonder. We have to ask Liam about how the judge ruling on that is. Um, okay. So we've got those. The other ones.
Yeah. So what's the number you think at for draw spells? Like where should we be at?
Oh, Grizzly Transformation is basically unblockable, isn't it?
Yep.
That is worth playing.
That's gotta go with there. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. What was your question?
In terms of like number of draw spells, how many do you think is
I like to be sitting minimum 20 in like a mid-range control sort of thing.
fair?
The question is like, what is the quality of our draw? Like the amount of it. How many cards are we drawing when we have a
Mm,
card allocated to that slot? And there's a lot of cards in this deck that are doing double duty. Grizzly Transformation is unblockable and it's drawing a card. Dark Dabbling, drawing a card and protecting. Casting of Bones, it's paired with something else, right? There's a lot of like double duty here, so we're actually going to end up with more. Like Angelic Gift is all about the flying and the draw card, so it's
right.
kind of both. The question is how many of these cards draw 2 or more. We're going to get Plunder, Deadly Dispute. Actually, this is a Village Rites and a Corrupted Conviction deck because if we want to go plundering, that means we have to start playing like the artifacts, and the artifacts don't do Edict Fodder, right? There are the artifacts like so like in some ways the Corrupted Conviction and the Village Rites are better because they are focusing on creatures, and we really want to have creatures in play so that we don't get edicted. So this is not the traditional plunder deck where you would play like Mycosynth Wellspring, Ichor Wellspring,
Right.
and those. Although we still could, if we wanted to draw more. And frankly, like Siphon Mind could probably go for that reason. Rowan's Grim Search is artifact, enchantment, or token. This is not going to be consistent enough, I don't think. because it's artifact, token, or enchantment. So like any one of our zillion enchantments. So maybe it is good.
Yeah, I like Rowan.
Rowan
I'm
Scream
sorry.
Search, yeah. It's
I think we should leave it. It's an instant.
Corrupted Conviction or Tendrils of Corruption is in here. That's so funny. Feed the Cauldron. It's under removal. We'll just put it under there for now and just maybe come back to it. Let's cut down on lands a little bit. 1, 2, just to get to 34 is I think a good number to be at. We have our land cyclers there. We have 43 cards to cut, which is a lot. Scroll shift. Oh, there's another one that's kind of interesting. Complete Disregard. This is another one of those like 1 mana exile target creatures with power 3 or less. Power 3 or less is actually like all the combo creatures basically. Which is interesting. You know, like that compared to the mana value means you can't kill certain things, right? Like you can't kill a thermopod, you can't kill a pneumatic wall, you can't kill an archaeomancer, you can't kill a peregrine drake, but like power 3 or less is like that's like all the combo creatures. So definitely worth looking into. Feast or Famine here. That one might not make the cut. Like we've already got quite a few creatures. Would Renegade map be a better cycler? So Erosium is asking this question now about how to get more plunder fodder. And there's these 1 mana cards, MV equals 1, O search, type artifact, O land. And there's 3 or 4 of them. Like, yeah, Traveler's Amulet, Wanderer's Twig, and maybe Renegade Map. That are all basically, they find you a land, but then later on, you can sacrifice them to plunder effects if you don't need lands anymore. I don't know, Erosium. I'm not sure if I'm sold on this plan yet. I know that you're interested in this, and I'm kind of curious. Basically, the way to read this is it's 2 mana cycling for a land, right? This is the same thing as a Gloomfang Mauler, except that instead of giving us a big creature, it gives us something we can sacrifice. My brain's telling me no, but my heart's telling me yes. These 3 are going to go into sideboard. This would be like one of the decks where we would do this though, right? Like if we needed to do this, we could, you know, because we aren't playing Troll, we aren't playing Eagles. So here, let's try it. We're here to try new things. So we'll go down on lands. We're actually going to put these under lands. And then I think what we could do is Path of Ancestry we don't need, I don't think. Orzhov Basilica is super awkward. Bojuka Bog we do not need because we've got good graveyard hate. Because we're going to have Nihil Spellbomb in here too.
Yeah, I've been not as up on Bojuka Bog lately because I keep drawing it by opening it. So I'm like, get out of there.
Bojuka Bog it's so funny. I've been hating on Bojuka Bog for the reason that when we're doing graveyard hate, we almost always want the graveyard hate to be instant speed.
Right.
And because and that if it's not instant speed, its only purpose is like slowing down somebody who's using Treasure Cruise, or if the combo doesn't work, then we're clearing the combo cards out of the graveyard forever, which actually is relevant in this deck. Because we are probably not going to die to combo when we're playing this. So it's probably good. Snowfield, Sinkhole. We don't even have the cyclers in this deck, but we do have. What cares about swamps? We just have Snuff Out. Candy Grapple could probably go. Get rid
Yeah, I
of
agree with
that.
that.
Feed the Swarm is kind of interesting. Usually, like, this card is kind of like mid. I suppose it is like very flexible. It kind of joins the other ones. We have a lot of really good versions of that effect, though. So, Erosium, you're saying a Renegade map is the only one you would actually ever play? Oh, the reason you do Renegade map is because it's only one mana. The activated ability is tap, sacrifice, get it, but it is coming into play on like tapped. So you're saying like you play Renegade map on one, and then you sacrifice it on turn two. I mean, at the same vein though, like I play Gloomfang Mauler in like a lot of black decks. I play uh, what is it called? Alabaster Host Intercessor, also a 2 mana cycler, and that's what Wanderer's Twig and Traveler's Amulet are. Yeah, we definitely have both the artifact lands, all three of them actually. We definitely want that. The only thing that cares about swamps here is our Snuff Out. So a part of me is thinking that we do want Path of Ancestry here. We're going to need a lot of unique pips. So we'll play that before we play the other ones. Are there other dual lands that give us something we like? O tapped, O enter, O or type land? Like anything that gives us a little bit of value? Because I would play those over the dual lands that are swamps, right? I mean, there's stuff that does damage. There's stuff that gains us life. Mortuary Mire. I don't think there's anything that's better. There's like gaining a little bit of life. There is like Silver Quill Campus, which could scry for 4. It's like a ridiculous amount of mana. It's like 5 mana to scry 1. I hate that. Okay. Yeah, because we definitely need like dual lands for our complicated mana requirements.
Yeah, one of the things I liked about Killian is I was not reluctant to play dual lands. I was like, give them to me. I need
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. I think that's the right way to look at it. We'll just leave them in for now. They do have some upside. Um, yeah. And then we'll try these here. And we could always like cut one of these two. Erosium, you're saying that the Renegade map is the one you prefer. You know, we could try the other ones too. I'm looking at that card Feast or Famine, and I'm starting to think this one doesn't make the cut. It's like 2 mana destroy target non-black, non-artifact creature, or 2 mana make a 2/2. So it's a kill spell and protection, which is kind of cool. But we've got a lot of that, right? And
Yeah,
most of it's 1 mana. I think that one can go for now. Our most expensive spells here are like Heliod's Pilgrim and Mammoth Umbra. This deck is like a who's who of like the most efficient spells we could possibly play. 42 cards. Okay, so now we've got 30 cards that are protection, 27 that are draw, 33 removal spells. So we need to cut that down quite a bit. So if we were to take 10 out of removal and 10 out of protection, that would still put us at 120, and we would still need to find cuts, which would probably have to be something else. So let's start with the kill spells. What about Twisted Embrace? Oh, damn! Do we not have the what's it called? Custody, Chains of Custody. Oh, we
uh,
don't.
you
Ah,
better put it in there.
I'm an embarrassment. I'm an embarrassment. Okay. Removal. And then Chains of Custody is going to also be a protection. effect, which is sweet. What do you think about Twisted Embrace, though? +1/+1 when it enchants destroy a creature and or planeswalker an opponent controls. Also enchants an artifact, which is weird. Um, this card used to be in the deck because it was the only aura that you could tutor up that actually destroyed something. But now, well, and now we have Chains of Custody. It doesn't destroy it.
Right.
So, but it's like inefficient, right? It's like compared to the other things, everything else is 1 mana. This is 2,
Yeah, I don't know if that's what we want to be.
and it's sorcery speed.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay. Which is also making me look at contract killing again. I think contract killing is going to have to go. That one's it's going to be 3 mana, right? And it's going to give us something back, but in that moment, they could probably kill our creature, right? Feed the Cauldron. Mana value 3 or less is like kind of brutal. That does not kill enough stuff. We have Expunge. This is like some of my favorite cards in the whole deck, are like these like janky, expensive, black, non-artifact, non-black, can't be regenerated. This one cycles, which is super cool.
Yeah.
Defenestrate, 1 mana, destroy a creature. Dark Banishing. Oh, Cut Short. This can go away.
Yeah, so
That's only tapped creatures. That's terrible. Do we have Mordor Muster in here? We don't. We need to add Mordor Muster. That card is really good. It's another Dusk Legion Zealot, basically. It's just a spell instead. Oh, Thraben Inspector and Novice Inspector.
Yeah, what's going to ask you about those?
Yeah, this is like exactly what we want.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we could actually plunder away the token, right? And then keep the Novice Inspector, and then we've got like that Edict Protection. Okay. Escape from Orthanc, Fragmentize, Endless Scream. I used to have a lot more equipment because I was focused on just being able to replay Killian and attach the stuff to him because he was always dying. But I don't think we want to let the dying happen. You know what I mean? Like, our goal is to not have our thing die. Omen of the Sun, Oubliette. I noticed you had Oubliette in yours too. Oubliette doesn't target anything on cast. So I think that one we probably want to leave out. Pointed Discussion, Stockpiling, Celebrant, Survive the Night. Oh, Survive the Night's kind of interesting. 1 mana, +1/+0, indestructible, and then Investigate. Kind of works well with the plundering, doesn't it?
It does.
Do we Brass Knuckles? Double. It's expensive. It's a lot of mana, but I mean that would end games for sure.
It's gonna end.
Yeah, that's definitely a good one. What else do we have here? Yeah, we've got all the aura tutors. Those are all available to us, but I think they're a little too expensive. That Survive the Night definitely appeals to me as well. Repel the Darkness, Read the Bones. Okay, I think we're fine on card advantage now. We have like a crazy amount, right? I'm even looking at Pentarch Ward now and thinking, like, if we have all this card advantage, do we really want to play a sorcery speed protection spell? Like, and we have like Mask of Law and Grace and Shield of Duty and Reason, which are also sorcery speed, and I don't like that.
I think that's a place we can start looking at classes, sorcery speed.
Yeah, like why would we play sorcery speed protection ever?
Right. I agree. Unless it gives us, if it doesn't give protection and a buff, I think it could go. And even then, sorcery speed, I don't think that's where we want to be. Especially when we 50 cards to cut.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. So let's cut these ones and cut the Pentarch Ward. Um, we also need a tag for evasion, just to see how much evasion we have. Okay, so Grizzly Transformation. Where are some other ones? Sugar Rush is Pump. And then we have a bunch of... Where are our other evasion spells? Shoulder, no. Parasitic, no. Dub, no. Ashra's Favor. Or Asha's Favor. Flying, yep, okay, cool. Triclopian Sight, no. We actually don't have a ton of, like, just flying stuff. We have a lot of Vigilance. Actually, like, we're super low on it. Holy crap. It's mainly protection. So type Aura, O flying. There's always Gift of Orzhova, but the lifelink is wasted. We really want this to just be like a 1-mana spell. There's not... White only has 11 cards that have the word flying on an aura. We can't even use Call to Serve because it's a non-black creature. Damn. We have like super limited options. Nimbus Wings is like the only other one. +1, +2, and flying. Yeah, Greatsword of Tyr can provide a kind of evasion, but we talked about it at the beginning, like that what was it, Grasp of the Hieromancer was a card that we cut because tapping down creatures is like, if we need to tap it down to punch somebody, then why don't we just kill it? And the nice thing about the Greatsword and the other one is Greatsword gives you a buff every, +1/+1 counter every time. But like, I'd rather just have flying for like 1 mana. Greatsword of Tyr is also like 3 to play and equip, right? Whereas like Nimbus Wings is like immediately giving us the power and flying. We don't need to tap things down. If it was ice, it would be different because then we're talking about like kind of, removal. But yeah, let's play Nimbus Wings as well. Okay, now 40 cards to cut. It's almost certainly going to be stuff that is like super like cute, right? Cute stuff. It goes. Blessing of Leeches. What do you think about this one? 1 mana, permanent regeneration for the rest of the game. Costs us a little bit of life, but like regenerate only works on destroy. It doesn't work on bounce.
Right.
But it is retained. It is like a, persistent soul channeling.
I like the persistence.
Soul channeling can go. Flare of Faith is indestructible, which is also based on destroy and damage, but it's a pump as well. But usually, like, people aren't going to try and kill our stuff when we're in combat. I think they'll try to kill it when we tap down, maybe, or maybe they have to kill it in combat and then they take damage because of it. But like, Flare of Faith doesn't interact with our opponents. I think this one maybe doesn't make the cut. Like, protection is going to be so much better. Beaming Defiance, +2/+2 hexproof is great. Angelic Intervention, +1/+1 counter. Yeah, pro a bunch of stuff. Stave off, it hits our opponent's stuff. Karametra's Blessing, +2/+2. And then if it's an enchantment creature or an enchanted creature, it also gains hexproof and indestructible. I like that. Yeah. Hexproof is big because it's going to stop the Aether Spell Bombs and the Executioner's Capsules. Although actually Pro Black stops Executioner's Capsule as well. God's Willing, Emerge Unscathed, Blessed Breath, Blacksmith Skill, Hexproof and Indestructible if it's an artifact creature. Yep. Snowfield Sinkhole is not protection. Remove tech. Okay, 38 cards to cut. Yeah, that's a lot of cards to cut, my dude. Like, maybe we cut the Mammoth Umbra just because it's 3 mana.
Yeah, I ended up having to do that, so I agree. It's just...
like, so many cards allocated to pump here. This is almost certainly going to be one of the places we need to cut.
Yeah.
Right, because ultimately we're a control deck that eventually kills people. Vigilance is very important. First strike is very important. Flying is very important. Um, and, Nameless Inversion could go. Nameless Inversion I had in here because Nameless Inversion can be a buff spell to Killian if he has more than 3 toughness.
Yeah.
And also it's 1 mana minus. It's like a 1 mana bolt, but I think that one can go. Sinister Strength +3/+1 is pretty big, but this also feels like it's just a buff, right?
Yeah, it's a just buff. Is that it?
It's just a buff, yeah.
It can go.
Yeah, I think that one can go. Sugar Rush is another one that could probably go. It does draw a card, but we have a lot of good card draw now, right? I'm going to start moving some of these into considering as well, because it's getting too deep.
I do. I know we need to kill our darlings here. I just love anything that says draw a card in this deck.
I know, right? It is a bit of a sacred cow, I think, in that, like, we don't want to be cutting cards like that do a lot of different things, but it ultimately is only for pushing damage. +3/+0. It's actually really similar to the to Twisted Embrace or the Sinister, whatever that was.
I do love using those spells as like almost like kill spells for the opponents, where like I'll buff a Dargo if they're not attacking me.
Yeah.
You're at 8 becomes 11 or whatever. So, but I get what you mean. And we still a card, but
and you just still draw a card, yeah. But I think like we're gonna get down on slots, and then that's gonna be hard to justify.
Yeah. Cut. It's out of here.
Yeah. Shoulder to Shoulder +2/+2 that sticks a ground and draws us a card.
I like a permanent buff.
I like the permanent buff a lot more than I like the +3 power.
I agree. I think that's definitely that one.
What other support cards do we have? These are not targeting. They're not spells targeting to support. They just have that on it. Scion of Halaster is going to have to go. That one doesn't actually draw cards. Expunge as a kill spell. We would get rid of Dark Banishing first. Ashes to Ashes could potentially go too. I think it's very good in the deck, but like, do we need to pay life for our removal?
No, at our rate, no.
Yeah, and it's sorcery speed.
Yeah, sorcery speed.
And then we have Reprobation, which is good. So what do we say? Like, so type Aura, O loses, O abilities. So we have Minimus Containment. Oh, that's kind of interesting. So it's the effect that see the problem. Here's the problem though. The problem with Minimus Containment is that this gives them their commander back. We want to play auras like this when it takes their commander away, and then they have to like kill it themselves. They have to edict themselves. They have to sacrifice it. They have to bounce it. They have to spend a card. This just says sacrifice it, get a treasure. It like this card's actually really, really bad in commander. Reprobation though. What if we do aura? O becomes. We're looking for those kinds of cards that just like turn off somebody's commander. Reprobation is particularly good here because Reprobation because we don't play edicts, right? We only have we don't have any of them actually. Yeah.
Be wrong not to play any like Extracted Confession or.
You might be right.
I don't know. I don't like leaving them out, but I also don't want to add more cards. They're still kind of.
Yeah. Well, and they cost 2 mana and they're sorcery speed, right?
I love it. But yeah.
Yeah, they're interesting in that, in the sense that like they're a little more expensive. We might need them though, so oh, any phasing or any only blue at common? Yeah, I don't know. Phasing? Is there any phasing stuff? No, no phasing. Uh, okay, so now we're into the nitty gritty of it. How many? So like anoint with affliction, mana value 3. So mana value 3 we don't want, but power. So O power, O destroy, or O exile. So let's see that really quick, and then we want it on an instant. Because like those cards like complete disregard are like um, pretty appealing to me. Like, would we play complete disregard over Vendetta? Vendetta kills anything, but we also take a bunch of damage.
Right.
There's also grotesque demise, exile target creature with power 3 or less. Um, There's also Last Breath. This is another one that people tend to like. 1 mana exile target creature with power 2 or less, which is most combo creatures, and then they gain 4. But so like we don't need to play shit like this in our deck, right? This is like when you're playing in a white deck that doesn't have good removal colors, right?
Yeah.
Um, we have So really, it's mainly guiding, like grotesque demise and complete disregard. Um, yeah, those are the best ones. I think I like those kind of a lot. They're pretty flexible. They're not going to kill like a Dargo. They're not going to kill certain commanders, but you won't die to combos with those in your deck. Um, okay, so Moment of Valor. How good is a card like this? It's protection and it's a kill spell, so it's flexible. It's not. It's only killing things with power 4 or greater, though, which is interesting. It's not going to kill a pinger, although I don't think we care about pingers in this deck.
I don't think
Um,
we do either.
and so it's kind of funny. I'm looking at Deadly Derision now again because it's double black.
Yeah, I don't think double black is where we want to be.
It is destroys anything, but like we have so many cards that do that.
Yeah. Non-conditional, which I like, but I don't. I think that can go in sideboard. I would want to like play test a lot of hands to see what the mana
Right.
looks like before
Yeah.
I was like, let's definitely include this.
Right. Okay. So let's look at. I'm just gonna make sure that we've got all the instant speed. Oh, here's another. Oh, Dark Banishing. This is one of them. I'm not worried about the inability to kill non-black things. That's very rarely been a problem for me. I hear that was something that you were encountering, but I have just not encountered that very often. Um, what about Six-Sided Die? Is this card good? 1 mana, choose target creature and roll a six-sided die. So they don't even know what's going to happen to it, and we don't either. Creature has a base toughness of 1 until end of turn. Put two -1/-1 counters on it. It deals 6 damage or 3 damage to it, and we gain 3 life. It gets -4/-4. Destroy it, exile it. Erosium is mentioning that Cut Short is free on turn 2, which is interesting. Because Cut Short gets discounted by 1, and then we can pay with the Convoke. We can actually cast it with our commander. That's why Cut Short was in there. It's because it's free. It's a snuff out.
Gotcha.
That might actually be worth it. Six-sided die is interesting. I mean, it feels like results 3 through 6 are good. Like 1 mana -4/-4. I don't know. It's random though. Like if we roll a 1 or a 2, we're not going to be happy.
Right.
Yeah, I don't.
Take the chance.
Sun Gold Barrage, destroy target creature with toughness 4 or greater. It's not a lot of things. Oh, there's another one. Vanquish the Weak. Destroy target creature with power 3 or less. We'll want to put that in our sideboard here. It's funny because these are like terrible cards otherwise, right? They're so bad. Temporal Isolation is an aura that turns off pingers and stops attacking damage. Yeah, Temporal Isolation's interesting. We have cards like Spectral Grasp. We have Martial Impetus and Parasitic Impetus, which are like long-term solutions to a creature. I'm actually going to cut Persistent Specimen. I'm now looking at that. Because we added Novice Inspector and Thraben Inspector. Renegade's Getaway. Indestructible creates a 1/1. Because before we were looking at like all these spells that like created 1/1s, you know, and then did something else. And then we added like a zillion, you know, like just like a ton of creatures, right? Like we've got a ton of creatures now.
Yeah, a lot of creatures.
You know, Cathar Commando is a really good card, but we actually, and it does serve as like instant speed, make a creature to protect against an edict. But we also have like a lot of really, like a lot cheaper effects, right? Like Destroy Evil, Generous Gift, Make Your Move, Feed the Swarm. We don't necessarily need Cathar Commando. I'm starting to see a pattern too, like we only have spells that are 1 mana in this deck. Everything is 1 mana. So like Candlelight Vigil could go because it's 2.
Yeah, but it's also Vigilance, which I like, right?
Yeah. Vigilance is very good. How many Vigilant cards do we have though? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 Vigilance cards. Erosium, have a good one, man. We'll catch you on the flip.
Yeah, thank you for around.
Appreciate your. Yeah, he's been feeding us all sorts of good stuff. We could cut Drown in Sorrow. Drown in Sorrow is good, but it's these sweeper cards are. It's like 3 mana.
Yeah, it's not as good since we added all the creatures back.
No, right? Like we don't really want that. Whereas like Pestilence genuinely ends the game, right? Like it's there's other things that Pestilence is doing. Repeatedly clearing blockers out, dealing damage. It's, you know, it's pretty good.
I'm just very hesitant to have one sweeper in a deck, but I see what you mean.
Right.
I see what you mean about it. You know, and like you said, it's about sticking to the game plan. What is Killian trying to do, and is that doing that?
Right.
And I see you say it's not. I'm still scared, but I think
I'm still scared.
So like, as much as like go wide, I don't know if it's, you know, super popular in the meta. I came across 3 or 4 decks. 3 decks.
It is something we should be aware of. You know, Abdel, TPI, Gut's not really seeing a lot of play right now. But like, I don't know. My thought is like, if there's something that's gonna like be a problem going wide, like the other answer to killing all the tokens is that we just kill Abdel when it resolves.
Right.
Never makes the tokens. So I feel like that's the better way to handle it. Like Clay and I have talked about a little bit in some of our chats, trying to deal with the tokens that Abdel makes is not like the way to approach the problem. Like you want to just prevent it from ever happening, right?
Was that what you would say for TPI as well?
Well, the thing is, you have a lot of really good tools to survive against TPI. This deck kind of freaks me out if I'm playing TPI. Because like the one thing is that you're without flying, you're gonna have a hard time hitting me, right? That's one
Right.
thing. So like I'm not like I'm not that freaked out. Like if I was looking at this list, once you get flying, then I'm definitely concerned. But like I can punch you, but you have tons of life gain. My kill spells probably can't kill Killian because Killian gets too big. I can't punch Killian because you've got vigilance, and so you're like gaining all the life back. Um, I don't have edicts. I don't have sweepers. The only way I can kill you when you're playing Killian is to try and just like burn you out of the game over like a couple, like 2 turns probably.
Which you did. So, yeah,
Yeah,
version one.
yeah, I did. I did. In fact, that's how all my games ended in that tournament. Was just like burnt, like roasting people with
Yeah.
like a flurry of like lightning bolts and stuff, cantrips. Okay, so Doomblade and Terror. Um, do we? Those are probably so. Doomblade and Terror are more flexible. So if we're comparing them in Grotesque Demise, the exile target creature with power 3 or less. Terror and Doomblade hit Abdel. Grotesque Demise and Complete Disregard do not. Cut Short only hits tapped creatures. So Cut Short is good against Malcolm. It's good against untappers. It's good against. This is another anti-combo card, but it's also not always going to work, right? Because
Right.
it has to be a tapped creature, and I don't love that. Um, yeah. So these Grotesque Demise do not kill Abdel either. That's just worth mentioning. Oh, wow. All the power 4 or greater stuff does hit Abdel, though. And we have a bunch of that. Moment of Valor, Make Your Move, um, Destroy Evil, Toughness 4 or greater. Damn, that's really sick. Okay, Vendetta is 1 mana, kill something, but it has to be non-black, and you lose life to the toughness. I think we can get rid of that. Good
I
card,
agree.
but we don't need to lose life to do that. There's no reason for
Agreed.
that. Protection spells like Dark Dabbling might be in there because Regenerate is like very narrow.
Yeah. And with the spell mastery, the fact that we have more creatures makes me more up on that than that was.
Well, we have 43 instants in the deck and 5 sorceries, so it will have spell mastery almost always, but I think that's still valid. Renegade's Getaway, Indestructibility, also basically kind of like Regenerate. It's better than Regenerate because like Regenerate takes us out of combat, which kind of blows. So like Blessing of Leeches could go. 126. We've got a lot of cuts to make. I think Cathar Commando is going to go. We've got better cards. Um, we might end up cutting some of these fodder creatures. We have 23 different things that we can sacrifice.
Yeah, I
Actually,
think
no,
that's
more than that because we have the Wanderer's Twig and the Renegade Map and the Traveler's Amulet.
I think the
Um,
23 creatures is kind of high for Killian. So I know we have plunder, but I still think that's kind of
it's fine. So then maybe what we could do is we could cut some of like the like Haunt of the Dead Marshes is kind of interesting in a sense, but it's very good. Like it scries, it comes back at instant speed.
yeah, I think
Um,
that one's back, so it's a keeper if we're gonna keep any of them.
yeah, yeah. So then Hunted
Or
Witness makes a soldier with lifelink, Doom Traveler Flyer. Garrison Cat is just a 1/1 soldier token, so we'll cut that one. It doesn't have any upside. Nested Shambler technically can make more tokens, but there's no other upside to it.
True.
I think we can leave that behind. We can cut one of these. In fact, we could cut... yeah, let's just cut one of these. And now we're at 122. So I think what we might do here is, the most important thing that we're doing here is that we are, and I'm going to bring Bajuka Bog back in, by the way. I think that we'll want to take things out of people's graveyards. So the thing that we've done here, and I don't know that we're going to finish this tonight, but we can continue to work on it.
Sure.
But the main point is that we've gone through all of the cards, basically, that you would ever consider for Killian. So for everyone watching, like, this is going to give you a framework for how to build your Killian deck based on the meta that you're in, right? Like, if you're in a very combo light meta, you're not going to want to play cards like Grotesque Demise or Complete Disregard or Vanquish the Weak? Was that the card? Yeah, you're not going to want to play those because they're not going to hit things that you as consistently. If you are in a combo meta, then like having more of those cards that can deal with that are really good. There's definitely some cards in here that like you're just almost always going to want to play. I think like Destroy Evil, Make Your Move, Generous Gift, Moment of Valor. These things are like hitting things that we really care about. The one that I was looking at here, I am looking at like Spectral Grasp and Reprobation a little bit. Spectral Grasp is so good, and the fact that we just get it for 1 mana, like take your creature and attack.
Spectral Grasp is, I know it's sorcery, but it's so good. It's
good. It's so good. Yeah, this card is really strong.
I gotta fight too. We gotta keep it. We gotta get rid of something else first.
Yeah. So we could cut the Deadly Derision. It's 2 mana. And actually, like, it's crazy. Everything is 1 mana, except for our card draw. Yeah, except for our card draw. Rowan's Grim Search is going to have lots of enchantments to sacrifice. But it is, like, 3 mana.
I agree.
Cut it. Protection here, now we get into the sort of like, stuff like Blessed Breath, which is literally just 1 mana protection. Like it doesn't have any other text on it. Oh, Feet of Resistance is pumped too. That's kind of nice. And so is Karametra's Blessing. I'm kind of looking at some of this stuff now, and I'm realizing that there's like a lot of these protection spells are actually granting us like some power as well. Need to keep that in mind because they actually do offer some buffs. Yeah, like Feet of Resistance. Okay. Standard Bearer is also a creature, so we'll get that under there. Chains of Custody. Oh, Chains of Custody is also a disenchant. That's sweet.
Oh, yeah.
Renegade's Getaway. This one might not make the cut, but I want to make sure that we have enough for the Plunder game plan. I think that that's really important because we need to be able to draw enough cards. But we're at 119. There's clearly more work to do on this. 21 pump. So that might be part of it, is like these pump spells, dedicated stuff like Shoulder to Shoulder, Candlelight Vigil. That's probably where the cuts come from.
Yeah.
Which is a shame, because we want to have a way to like close the game out. We really just wish that we had like a lot of copies of all the glitters in the deck,
Definitely.
Because that's a game ender for sure. That might be one thing we could do too, is we could take some of those pump spells out and we could just have a smaller density of cards that are really game ending, like Brass Knuckles, right? Brass Knuckles is like a huge O plus 4. Just the writing on the wall here a little bit is that we're going to have to cut a lot of stuff that we don't want to cut.
Yeah.
So like what are some big buffs? We have like Howling Fury plus 4 plus O, Feast of the Unicorn, 2 mana plus 4. Um, uh, yeah, that's about it. What about plus 5? There's also like Empyrean armor, I think is what it's called. Yeah, this is going to be toughness. Impure? Yeah, Empyrean armor. Plus X, where X is the number of cards in your hand. So if this is like 2 mana plus 3, we're not like in love with it. Because we have better ways to get +3/+3.
Yeah.
And we're pretty interactive, so we're gonna have lots of like we're gonna be spending our cards. Yeah.
I agree. I think.
So let's close it up for now here, and we'll keep working on this together here. But the main thing for all you watching out there, the main thing that we want to be like taking away from this is that you've got a lot of options depending on your meta. If you're not experiencing a lot of creature combat, then you can cut the impetus cards potentially. If you're not experiencing combo, then you can get rid of the complete disregard, the grotesque demise, vanquish the weak. If you've got a lot of black in your meta, then you might cut something like Doomblade, Terror, Defenestrate, or Expunge, those types of things. Yeah, so that's kind of the takeaway with this, but we're not going to be able to finish it right now because I don't know what 19 cards. I don't know what we I don't know what we cut. That's going to take some more work on both our ends. But yeah. So, any other thoughts you've got for folks out there, or for me, or either one before we shut things down here, Brennan?
Yeah, no, I just think Killian's fun. I enjoyed sort of slapping it together last minute for the tournament, and then your thoughts, I appreciate those as well. So I say give it a try. Let us know what cards you want to add, or your cards are like, I'm never taking this out. There are people looking at them like, I'm never taking it out. I don't care.
Yeah.
Stay back.
Right. There will be those cards occasionally that you run into where it's just like,
truthfully.
nope, sorry, this one stays.
Really a very awesome commander. I look forward to playing this revised version after we make those last 19 cuts.
Yeah, the cool thing is like, when we're cutting cards out of this, ultimately, it's not like eroding. It's not like we're losing out on that good card because there's like a million other good cards, right, that are just that are there instead. And if we think about like the big differences here, actually, before we wrap things up here, let's do a little comparison. Let's. We didn't get Dawn Charm, Bloodseeker, or Suture Priest in.
Oh, I think
okay.
those are.
So let's do a quick comparison here, and we'll do Killian. This is a really cool mechanism you can use on Moxfield for those watching here. 95 cards different. That's all of them. That's super funny.
I love that.
Okay. So the cards that we would want instead would be, are there any things that we've missed here? I think Dawn Charm, we do want to, or actually we want to do this another, oh no, we can't do it the other way around. We want Dawn Charm, we probably want Bloodseeker. Oh, Slice from the Shadows. Dang, dude, this is...
That was the one, yeah, I wanted you to that. I love that this is the thing. Let me throw this in the deck.
So it's 1 mana -2/-2 can't be countered. 2 mana -3/-3. So it is actually like the least efficient of all the kill spells we have. But it can't be countered. I don't know. We'll have to think about that one. Bloodseeker.
I don't think I drew it, but I was like, I'm kind of positive on it. I was like, let me try it. It's something.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple. There are a couple here that I would want in the deck too. Suture Priest, Bloodseeker, Astrolabe, Ghastly Demise. Although Ghastly Demise, maybe not. We'll see.
Maybe not.
And then Dawn Charm. Those are like the big ones that I see here that I would want in the version that we just worked on. Um, oh, and Wedding Invitation would be great as well. Can't be blocked. Draws a card. You can plunder it away if you don't need it. And
Yeah,
Nihil Spellbomb as well. But like, there's some really significant differences here between these lists. They are
yeah,
fundamentally different. We could cut something like the Nezumi Line Breaker type cards. You know, it would probably be one of the others, and then bring in like the Wedding Invitation. You know, even like the Suture Priest and the Bloodseeker could be seen as you know, Edict Protection and something that we can sacrifice. Like those cards aren't always hyper relevant, but it would feel
right.
weird. Like I've never sacrificed a Bloodseeker or a Suture Priest to a plunder effect without my opponent deploying a kill spell against it first, right?
Yeah,
So
I agree
yeah,
with that. Yeah.
but yeah, but this is a good way to kind of look at these things here. I'm gonna drop this link in the chat here. This is the compare function that y'all can look at. I'm also going to drop a link to my list here. We're going to be taking this one off of unlisted here once we get it built up. You know, maybe Brenin will just add you as a co-editor to this one here.
Sure.
As an option. But yeah, cool. Well, Brenin, thank you so much for being willing to share in the coaching process with everybody else, and kind of, you know, talk about your learning journey with the deck and share about your experience at the tournament. I thought that was really a great contribution to this episode.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me on the episode. I love getting your insight into cpedh and the deck building process. And I hope people got value out of this. I love the comments, and I thank you, Erosium, and everybody else who was around, stuck around for us.
Yeah, super helpful. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, with that, I just want to take a quick moment to thank everybody. Thank you all for joining today for this episode. It was great having you all. Lots of great participation. Erosium in particular, thank you so much. Hope you all learned a little bit more about a different approach to Orzhov that's like pretty unique. You know, this sort of like hyper aura focused Voltron control. It's very spicy, very cool. So if you learned something, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to do something before you leave. The free thing to do, which is to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you aren't already, and of course, after the video is done, you can leave a comment. That's helpful for the algorithm, just to make sure that videos like this get into the hands of more people, and ultimately we spread this great format of cpedh competitive Pauper Commander. If you do want to take your support to the next level like Brenin did, and get access to some of the perks like the supporters only section of the Discord, being able to get all the updates on all the decks that we make through this and all the decks that I'm playing in tournaments, as well as insights through competitive Magic and a whole host of other things, you can sign up on the patreon.com/common connoisseurs to take your support to the next level. You can start for as little as $2 a month to get into that section. And it's a great way to support this content, support me, support the channel, and get this format out into the hands of more people. And with that, Connoisseurs of Fine Common Cardboard, thank you so much for being here today, and we'll be catching you on the battlefield. Peace out.
Peace.